Lewis Hamilton's move to Ferrari was supposed to be the fairy tale ending, a 7-time world champion joining the most iconic team in Formula One history, chasing that elusive 8th title. It sounded almost too good to be true, and so far, it's looked a little too good to actually be true. But is it really time to start talking about Hamilton throwing in the towel already? And could it be that the real problem isn't Hamilton at all, but Ferrari? Now, before we get too carried away with wild predictions and retirement rumors, let's take a breath and look at what's really going on. Lewis Hamilton has completed just 5 races with Ferrari so far. 5. That's about the same number of times Ferrari have forgotten to tighten a wheel nut during a pit stop. It's early days, people. But yes, it's fair to say the start hasn't been anywhere near the dream many, including Hamilton himself, had envisioned. So far, Hamilton has picked up 31 points, and not once has he finished higher than 5th place in a Grand Prix. His brightest moment came in China, where he grabbed pole position and won the sprint race, giving Ferrari fans, and honestly, a lot of us, a glimpse of what could be. It was like seeing the sun break through the clouds, until the very next day when he was disqualified from the main Grand Prix. If you're Lewis, it's got to feel like reaching the top of the mountain just in time for someone to push you off the other side. And then there's Saudi Arabia, where he labored to a lonely 7th place, stuck in no man's land, far from the podium and even farther from the front. The frustration has been visible, even audible, with Hamilton himself admitting that there's no fix right now and that it's painful to drive. Those are not the words of a man who's just having a bad weekend. That's the sound of someone genuinely wrestling with the car, with the team, maybe even with himself. But even then, it's important to remember, Ferrari's not exactly known for making life easy. This is the same team that's built a reputation for chaotic strategies, questionable decision-making, and breaking fans' hearts on a yearly basis. Hamilton didn't just switch teams. He walked into the ultimate emotional roller coaster of Formula One. And maybe, just maybe, that explains why things feel so turbulent right now, rather than signaling the end of one of the greatest careers we've ever seen. Enter Ralf Schumacher, never one to mince his words, who dropped a pretty heavy bombshell this week. On Sky Germany's Backstage Pit Lane podcast, he painted a rather grim picture of Hamilton's future. According to Ralf, Lewis looked slumped over, drained of energy, drained of joy, and dangerously close to asking himself that dreaded question, why am I even doing this anymore? And let's be fair, Ralf isn't just some guy shouting into the void. He's been there himself. He knows what it feels like when racing. The thing you once loved more than life itself starts to feel like dragging a stubborn shopping cart with a broken wheel around a supermarket. Ralf believes that if things don't turn around, Hamilton could decide he's had enough before his contract even runs out. It's a heavy suggestion, and for Hamilton fans, it hits like a cold splash of water. A 7-time world champion simply walking away, not with fireworks and glory, but with frustration and exhaustion? That's not the ending anyone wants. But here's the thing. While Ralph's words are serious, they aren't prophecy. They're a perspective, a warning, not a conclusion. Now, sure, Hamilton's first 5 races in red haven't exactly screamed second coming of Michael Schumacher, but let's not write the man's career obituary just yet. People are jumping to conclusions faster than Ferrari pit crews used to botch tire strategies in 2019. Yeah, I went there. The truth is, Hamilton has dealt with adversity his entire career, and not the, oh no, my latte's cold kind of adversity. We're talking about real, gut-punching, career-defining challenges. And time after time, he's found a way to rise above them. 5 races, a tricky car setup, some bad luck, and a few gloomy interviews don't erase 17 years of brilliance. Yes, he's frustrated. Yes, the gap to Leclerc is bigger than anyone would like, but this is Hamilton we're talking about. The man has built an empire on comebacks. Remember when people said he was finished in 2016? Or when they doubted him after 2021? Spoiler alert, he wasn't finished then. and there's a pretty good chance he's not finished now. Besides, even Ferrari's team principal Fred Vasseur, someone who knows Lewis better than most, isn't panicking. In fact, he's standing firmly behind Hamilton, giving him what he called 2,000% support. If Vasseur's not reaching for the panic button, maybe we shouldn't either. And let's just be honest for a second, maybe, just maybe, this isn't all about Lewis losing his edge. Maybe it's about Ferrari being, well, Ferrari. Because if there's one thing the Scuderia is consistent at, it's being consistently inconsistent. Jaime Alguersuari, the former Toro Rosso driver, was pretty blunt about it. He said what many have thought, but few dared to say out loud. Ferrari is competitive, sure, but they're not a winning team right now. They haven't won a championship since 2008. McLaren's currently running circles around everyone. Red Bull stumbled a little, and meanwhile, Ferrari is, as always, somewhere between brilliance and chaos. Hamilton didn't inherit a perfect machine. He inherited a work in progress. A very fast, very beautiful, but very temperamental work in progress. Fixing that takes time. Adjusting to a completely different car philosophy, a new team culture, and the Italian media circus, that's not an overnight job, even for one of the greatest ever. So, before we start drafting farewell letters, maybe we should give Hamilton and Ferrari a little more time. After all, if anyone can turn a painful start into a roaring comeback, it's Lewis Hamilton. And if Ferrari can manage to stay out of their own way for once, well, maybe, just maybe, we'll still get the fairy tale ending we all hoped for. You know, there's a funny thing that happens in Formula One, and no, I'm not just talking about Ferrari somehow inventing new ways to mess up pit stops. Every time a big name hits a rough patch, the entire paddock, the media, and half of Twitter immediately start preparing their retirement montages. 5 races, just 5 races into Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari journey, and suddenly, he's being treated like he's seconds away from swapping his race suit for a retirement villa and a glass of wine in Tuscany. But let's take a step back and breathe for a second. Formula One is brutal, not just for the drivers, but for the fans' patience too. We expect greatness instantly, especially when it's someone like Hamilton, who's given us historic moments time and time again. But transitions aren't smooth, not even for the greatest of all time. New team, new car, new systems, new dynamics, and a mountain of expectations weighing down every single race. No matter how many trophies you already have, we've seen this before. Remember Michael Schumacher's early days at Ferrari in 1996? He didn't immediately rewrite the record books. It took years of building frustration, heartbreak, and grit before the dominance came. Greatness, real lasting greatness, is a slow-cooked meal, not fast food. And sure, some folks are already treating this like a Netflix docu-series finale, where Hamilton dramatically tosses his helmet into the garage and rides off into the sunset. But F1 is a long game. Championships aren't decided after 5 races. Legacies aren't written in just one season. If anything, history tells us to be wary of quick conclusions. Because more often than not, the legends who are counted out too soon, they come back swinging harder than ever. Now, let's talk about something that doesn't get enough airtime in moments like these. Belief. And not just any belief, the kind that comes from someone who's actually been in the trenches with you. Fred Vasseur, Ferrari's team principal, isn't just a manager spitting out comforting sound bites for the cameras. He's someone who's been part of Hamilton's story since the very beginning, back in his raw, unstoppable, meteoric rise through F3 and GP2. When Fred says he's 2,000% behind Lewis, it's not just PR, it's personal. This is a man who has seen Hamilton's resilience firsthand, who knows that even when things look bleak, Hamilton has the ability to dig deeper than almost anyone else on the grid. And honestly, Fred's optimism matters. Because despite the rough start, despite the setbacks, despite the headlines, the raw potential is still there. You saw flashes of it in Bahrain. You saw it again in China. The ingredients are all present. The car just needs to suit Lewis a little better. The balance needs tweaking, and the team needs to fully sync around him. That's not science fiction. That's classic Ferrari evolution. Slow at first, then suddenly, they get it right. Vasseur isn't alone either. Listen closely, and you'll notice that even in Hamilton's own interviews, behind the frustration, there's still a flicker of that competitive fire. The man isn't done. He didn't come to Ferrari to quietly fade out. He came to chase that 8th title, the final piece of history that no one has ever touched before. And if you think Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time world champion, the man who turned racing into an art form, is just going to throw in the towel after 5 races, you haven't been paying attention. So, what do you think? Is this just a slow start to a legendary comeback story? Or are we witnessing the first real cracks in Hamilton's armor? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I seriously want to hear what you think. Are you still believing in the Ferrari dream? Or are you getting a little nervous like some of the paddock insiders? If you enjoyed this breakdown and you're riding with Hamilton through the highs and the lows, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps more fans find this channel. And hey, if you want to stay updated with every twist and turn of this crazy season, from McLaren's surprise domination to all the Ferrari drama you could possibly ask for, make sure you subscribe and smash that notification bell. Because trust me, with the way this season is going, you do not want to miss what's coming next.